Real quick as we get started, I just want to take a little time to talk about Rasul. Just thank him for his time here, all the the work and the leadership that he provided us. Obviously, that was a nice practice squad signing in the middle of the season. I don't think you see those too many often, so very appreciative of him. Also, I just want to talk about Rashan Gary and the extension. Obviously, very core member of our football team, and I'm very excited to lock him up for a long time. So he means a lot to our football team, and we're excited to have him. Season hasn't gone like we wanted it to. There's been some frustration, but I think we're very focused on the process, how we get through it, and continue to get better. So with that, I'll take your questions.
Brian, what led to this decision to trade Rasul?
It was a tough one because of what he means to our team. But at the same time, we weren't looking to move anybody. Got a call kind of out of the blue a few days ago, and it ended up being, we kind of weren't really interested in doing it. But at the end of the day, the offer was kind of too good to pass up.
He had been one of the more outspoken people in the locker room about how what Matt said after this past game was a mess. Did that have any bearing?
Not at all. No. Rasul's been a really good leader for us, really positive leader for us. So really had nothing to do with that.
So along those lines, you swapped the draft picks as well, but Rasul's you mentioned the leadership. He's a good player. Is that, I guess, in the middle ground, it's like a fourth-round pick, basically you get for him, right? Kind of down to two. Is that worth it for a productive starting guy who's a leader?
Yeah, we thought it was the best interest in the Packers. I mean, obviously, in the short term, you lose a good player, that's tough. But at the same time, I think looking kind of long term, it's going to be in our best interest. So, anytime you get a third-round pick that's going to kind of be within the top 100, probably going to be in the top 50 players you have on your board. That's something I think was just too good for us to pass up. We wish him well. He served us well while he was here, and like I said, we're excited about the opportunities it presents for some other guys.
Brian, what have you thought just seeing Rashan being able to bounce back the way he has from that knee, and now obviously having him in your forecast long term?
Just an unbelievable example to our football team of how you do it. From the day he got here, his work ethic was kind of, not many guys match kind of the intensity he brings every day in practice, whether it's in the weight room, the meeting rooms. He just really leads by example. He's really grown, I think, as a leader as well. His play speaks for itself. He's on fire when he's out there, and I think his best football is still ahead of him. So, for us to be able to sign a guy, extend a guy for 4 years right now with his best football ahead of him, I think it's really exciting for our football team. He's just got so much out there for himself, and I think he's going to reach whatever goals he sets.
What have you thought of how Jordan's played these first 7 games?
Yeah. A little bit up and down like our entire offense, right? I think it's been a work in progress for the entire offense. There's been glimpses, particularly in the second halves, of really good football, but we have not started very well. So I think that group, that unit as a whole, has a lot of work to do, but at the same time, I think they're kind of committed to the process, believe in that group of guys, and expect better results coming.
Bryce, could it take you more than just this season to find out what you have in Jordan and if he is the guy going forward?
I hope not. I think we got 10 games left. These are going to be very important 10 games, and I think he's done a lot of really good things. Really like the way he's responded to the adversity, how he's led the team. Again, we got to be better as a unit, and I expect that to happen over the next 10 games. I think we're going through some things that we knew we would go through. We haven't had the results we want, but I do like the way the guys are responding to things.
I'm sure you expected ups and downs with how young you decided to go with the pass catching spots, but what do you make of what the last 4 or 5 games have been?
I would have expected better results, but the guys they're putting the work in, they're doing things the right way. We've certainly seen a lot of glimpses in practice and certainly in the second half of some games, but the consistency hasn't been there. But again, I really do believe in the group in that building and the coaching staff, and I think big things are ahead. It's just gonna, we got to get through these things. We got to learn from them. We got to, stay grounded to the process, and if we do that, I think the results will come.
There are a lot of issues that on the offense that really have very little to do with the quarterback: the drop passes, wrong routes, the missed blocks, the penalties. How hard does that make it for you to evaluate what the quarterback is doing when there's all this around him?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's not just evaluating the quarterback, but everything, all the players. When the group as a whole is not functioning the way it should function, it's hard to evaluate anybody. So at the same time, it's on us to get that right, so we can move forward and evaluate the guys that we have in that room. But yeah, it does, when we're not clicking, it's tough to evaluate anything.
You said multiple times this offseason that you guys didn't have a winning record with Aaron until midway through his second season. Did you expect that first 7 games might look like this?
Yeah, I don't really try to put too many expectations. I try not to put any ceilings or floors on anything. I think I want those guys to be able to play free, get out there and play free and fast, and just kind of see what happens. You know, there's expectations around here. You know, the results, winning is not fun, right, for anyone. So everybody's frustrated, but at the same time, I think no one stopped working and they've stayed together. That's important for us, and I think you know, as long as they do that, you know, the results will come in time.
Brian, back to the secondary. What do you make of that room now, you know, injured as you are and with Rasul?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it made it a little tougher to think about doing that, you know, just because of where we are injury-wise, and, you know, with Jair not being able to play a few games and Stokes where he's at. But I do like, you know, the young guys in that room, you know, Stokes, Valentine, you know, and certainly Jair sounds like hopefully he's getting back to full health, which will be nice. So I like the players in that room, but losing a guy like Rasul this time of year is tough. But I expect those guys to fill the gaps.
You said you kind of expected more from this receiving group. What's kind of held them back, and did you give any consideration to maybe adding a veteran to that mix? Just in terms of leadership?
Yeah, we looked at a lot of possibilities of adding. There just really, quite frankly, wasn't much out there to add. So, you know, we looked at some things, but none of them, really wasn't much to look at, to be honest. But I also think that those guys, it's just a matter, if they make the plays that I know they're capable of making, then I think this thing can turn around a little bit quickly, you know? So, again, it's the whole offense as a group, you know, moving forward together and just being more refined in what they're doing. And just, I think, you know, just the whole organization, just everybody kind of doing their job and doing their job a little bit better, and we'll get to where we need to go.
Back to Jordan, you've got an enormous decision to make there, right? I mean, if the season doesn't go right, you might end up top 5 pick, or you got to give him a contract extension. I mean, there's these humongous variations. So what do you need to see out of him the next time?
Obviously, there'll be time for that, Bill. I think right now, you know, we're worried about beating the Rams. You know, that's the most important thing. So right now, it's just about, we have a lot of faith in Jordan. And I think so, you know, we got to get the offense playing better. And when that does, those things will take care of themselves. But right now, I think it's really focused on the Rams.
Goody, how do you balance that? You know, you can say we're focused on beating the Rams, but your chances of beating the Rams didn't get better by trading Rasul yesterday, right? Like with what you've got at corner right now. So how do you balance it? I know you don't like the word rebuild and that kind of thing, but you know, if this is in the best interest of the team, it's because you're getting to move into the third. I mean, you didn't get a 3rd round pick for him, right? Like you gave up a 5th round pick as part of it, which could be toward the top of the 5th round potentially. So how do you balance we want to beat the Rams on Sunday with what you're trying to do long term?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it all, right? You look where your team's at, and I think for us right now, I think we have some young players at that position we really like, and we want to see play. We need to see play, right? And you know, again, you know, to me, it's about, you know, we got to play better as units, offense, defense, and special team. Play complementary football. We haven't done that, and I think you know, this is, again, I know whenever you take any player away from your football team, it's tough to get better, right? But at the same time, I think, you know, my job is to kind of keep an eye on right now, but also, you know, an eye on the future. And again, getting a pick in the top 100 was something that I just didn't think we could pass up at this time.
So that was kind of what you said too when we talked about Mercedes and not bringing him back, right? So the other part I'm curious about is, you know, I saw Rasul on Monday in the corner of the locker room with Wicks and Valentine, and he was clearly talking to them, kind of trying to build them up and say, hey, we got to get our act together, right? He walked off the field with Jordan, trying to kind of pump him up too. I'm wondering, do you have to consider when you're weighing this trade what the message is to the locker room for the guys that are in there now? Sure. And what do you think that message is, or how that gets received?
Yeah, no, you consider all those things. I think you consider all those things. And quite frankly, at the beginning, that's why I said no. I'm like, yeah, not, you know, for what was being offered, it didn't make any sense. But once it got to a certain point, there's some offers you can't refuse. And this is one of those, you know what I mean, for the player. And again, we wish him well, but I also think, you know, right now that there's opportunity, and I have a lot of expectations for players to step into leadership roles that need to step into leadership roles. I think they've done that. We've certainly seen some evidence of that, and I think that needs to continue to grow. And I'm hopeful and excited that it will.
Once you make the one move, why not look to deal maybe some of the other veterans you might not call?
Yeah, like I said, we didn't go into this looking to deal anybody. Quite frankly, we were kind of looking to add maybe something if we could. That didn't transpire, but this kind of came out of nowhere and just made sense for our football team.
How raw did you think Watson was coming out relative to, fairly high picks like that?
Not any more than most.
So what do you think, has that panned out, or do you think, was he a little more raw than you thought coming out?
No, I just think right now our offense isn't playing well as a whole, which I think limits opportunities for all the guys. So I don't think there's any rawness there that we need to worry about now. I know everybody talks a little bit about our team being young. We're 7 games in. I mean, that whole young thing's out the window, right? They're professional football players. There's expectations, and so we're not shying away from that.
With that said, I'm going to go out on a limb and say when you draft a player, you're not expecting the first 7 games of his career to be his best football. What are you seeing on film specifically that gives you hope that there's potential, there's talent here, especially when things are so bleak?
Yeah, I think every day in practice, seeing how these guys work. There's been adversity, seeing how they've handled that adversity, how they're leaning on each other. I think that'll give this group an ability to move forward and have success in the future. They got to do it. It's easy to talk about it. They got to do it. But the expectation is that they will.
Brian, what's your assessment of the offensive line through 7 games?
Yeah, I think they've done a nice job pass blocking. We haven't got our run game going as good as we've wanted to. There's been some injuries there as well, but I think some young players. Rashid came in, did a nice job for us. So I think they played. I think Josh Myers playing the best football since he's been here, so he's playing very, very well. It's good to have Elton back up there on a full-time basis, even though he was working through some things for a couple games there. But no, I think they've done a nice job. They got to continue to improve just like the rest of the offense, but they've done a good job.
Brian, when is Dave having that second surgery, or has he had it already?
Yeah, I'll let Dave kind of talk about that. I know that there's some stuff scheduled coming soon here.
Okay. With that in mind, how do you approach that situation? Because it's going to probably be till next August or whatever till he's ready.
Yeah, I think for 3 years it'll touch and go, right? So we're just going to have to kind of see how the surgery goes and how Dave's doing, and he's got decisions to make as well. So this isn't what he's going through is not a short-term thing, so it's going to take some time.
Brian, considering the expectations and the standards that have been set around here, where is your patience at right now?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Everybody's frustrated, I think, and that's they should be, right? We expected to perform better, and the frustration level I think throughout the building is there. But at the same time, I think we believe in the process that we're doing, so you just kind of focus on that. Again, I think everybody's really got to focus in on doing their job and doing their job just a little bit better, and we'll get to where we need to go. But it's no fun to be in the situation we're in. But again, the belief in the people in that room, the locker room, the coaching staff, and everybody in this building is there.
You got a lot of talent on defense. What do you think's not quite added up there to it being high in what you were hoping for?
Yeah, I just don't think we've played consistent enough. Certainly they've been put in some tough spots just because of the time of possession and things that they've gone through. But we just got to be, a little bit more sound, a little bit more consistent. Again, we've seen flashes of the pass rush come through, and we've had some moments. It's just not a little bit like last year. Just the consistency is not there.
Jordan, how much do you balance it being on the coaching staff compared to being on the players to get the job done?
Yeah, I don't really look at it like that. It's on all of us, right? It's on everybody in that room. Again, like I said before, there's a lot of belief in everybody here that we'll be able to move forward, get better, and then eventually the results will follow. So that's kind of what we're focused on. We're not really looking to blame.
If the defense wasn't consistent enough last year, and it's mostly the same group of players and the same group of coaches, what gives you any confidence that it's going to get consistent over these next 10 games?
Yeah, we're here every day, seeing how they work, seeing the time they're putting in. I think there's, as you guys can see, the ebbs and flows of the National Football League. You can start off really hot, and then all of a sudden, you hit some things and they're not working. Teams go through that all through the season. So it's going to be important for us this next 10 games to take these opportunities and move forward, get better, and then we do need to see some results.
Jordan had 3 years to sit and learn from Aaron. Obviously, he only played 5 quarters during that time, and you said that at this offseason he needs to play. How much were you expecting those 3 years to prepare him for the snaps he's taken now, and have you seen that in any meaningful way kind of help him in this situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have heard me say this before. I mean, practice is practice, but you got to play the games. I mean, that's how players learn in this league, is by making mistakes out there in the field, and then kind of carrying those scars with them. And I think, you know, Jordan's doing that right now, certainly, and I think the whole offense as a whole is doing that. And then it'll really be how we take that and how we move forward that will determine a lot on all these guys, you know, and where we go from there.
Do you evaluate him as effectively a rookie then, since he doesn't have those scars, he doesn't have a lot of snaps, or is he not that because he had?
Yeah, I don't really look at it like that. You know, we're evaluating a first-year player, you know, if that makes sense, you know, because he's really, you know, had his first chance to go out there and game plan week in and week out. You know, so to me right now, it's just like, it's really looking at the small victories, the small improvements, and making sure we're moving forward. If that doesn't, you know, if that stops happening, then there's problems. But right now, I think we're seeing little things. We just got to get going in the first half.
What are those little things?
I just think the way he's seeing things, the way he's commanding the team, certainly the adversity he's going through and how he responds to that. You know, I think when he sees things for second times, he's doing a good job with things, but sometimes the first time things can catch him a little bit. But again, it's like, you know, there's times where he's really doing a good job on certain things and it may not show that because the rest of the group's not, you know, and then there's other times the rest of the group are doing some good things and maybe he's not. So it's trying to get everything lined up together and aligned.
So along those lines, and Bill kind of asked this earlier, but when you talk about those other factors, right? So you've been evaluating players for what, 25 years now? So when you've got so many young receivers and the offensive line has been banged up, so how much harder does that make your job to evaluate your quarterback under those circumstances?
Yeah, I think like I said before, it's tough to evaluate everyone when it's not going right. But at the same time, we spend all day looking at, you know, what's going right, what's not going right, and you know, those things as we move forward. I think there's a lot of season left, and we need to see these guys grow. And I expect to see these guys grow. But yeah, it can make it difficult when the whole unit's kind of out of whack to evaluate, you know, any individual.
And with that in mind, you know, when you said it at the draft, I have to admit, I thought it made perfect sense. When you said, I want to, you know, the idea is for all these guys to grow together. Has it turned out to maybe be a little bit more difficult because, you know, all those guys are at different points, and, you know, even your second-year guys are still making maybe early career mistakes because they're still second-year guys. Has that been more difficult, or has it kind of looked the way you expected?
I wouldn't really say it's more difficult. We haven't had the results we wanted, you know, and we'd like the results to come fast. You don't get me wrong, but at the same time, the things that they're going through are important, and they're going through them. And you know, how we come out the other side remains to be seen. But like I said, I have a lot of confidence in the group, the guys that are coaching them, and you know, I think we're all excited to kind of see where we can go this last 10 games.
Right. How do you feel like you're positioned next year for salary cap space and draft picks?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. And to be honest with you, I don't pay a ton of attention to that this time of year. We'll get to that. But I mean, if I'm correct here right now, I think we're probably at 11 picks we're thinking we're going to have. You know, I think we'll probably have 7 in the top 4 rounds. You know, salary cap wise, we're getting healthier coming out of kind of the pandemic and what we did, you know, with the teams that we had here. Where we're chasing some things. I think we're getting in a better situation. Hopefully the cap will go up. I'm always hopeful that the cap will go up as much as possible. But yeah, we're getting into a better healthy situation where maybe we can look at some things differently as we hit the offseason.
Goody, you mentioned having faith in the coaching staff. I'm wondering, you know, when the Bills call and they're interested in Rasul, what's the communication like with Matt? I mean, Rasul was also probably one of his guys that he counted on for messaging and stuff from a leadership perspective. So do you tell him right away, or do you make the trade and then say, hey, you know, we're moving? How does it work?
Matt and I talk every day multiple times. So when these things come up, I kind of keep him up to date with what's out there and what's going on, and very aligned with what we're thinking. You know, he understood. I mean, it was, again, there's no coach that wants to lose any player this time of year, right? I mean, it's just you've trained them, they're ready to go, they know what to do. So, but at the same time, he, you know, especially when the offer got to where it was, you know, I think he understood what was going on. So, again, you know, whenever coaches spend time with players and train them and have relationships there, it can be difficult. But yeah, Matt and I talk through these things on a daily basis.
A few more, please.
Brian, you said earlier that you're focusing on some of the small wins during games, but in a losing streak, what would your message to the fans be if you're focusing on the small wins, but the wins aren't translating to the game.
Yeah, I don't, not big on messaging to the fans. What I would say is everybody's frustrated. I'm sure they're frustrated as well. But the group of guys we got in that locker room are good guys that are working their tails off. They're very frustrated as well. And just, they're working really hard to get where we need to go. How long that'll take, we'll see. But, we all expect, if we focus on the process, that the results will come.
You said youth wasn't an excuse 7 games in. You also said, obviously there's adversity right now. In your assessment, why are things where they're at here, where the offense can't get things going in the first half, where the defense isn't generating turnovers? Why are things where they're at if it's not youth?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if I had all those answers, we probably wouldn't be there, right? But I think, we got to become more efficient, and we got to become more sound on both sides of the ball, special teams as well. I think when we do that, as that thing grows, then, the results, not only wins and losses, but offensively, defensively, will come. So, but I don't think there's any one specific thing. I think it's just everybody getting a little bit better at what they're doing and not worrying about what everybody else is doing.
Goody, real quick, Lauren asked you about messaging to the fans, and I've covered this team for a long time. There haven't been many seasons where we were kind of in this spot around the trade deadline. I mean, there's been a few, but there's a segment of the fan base that now is kind of rooting for you guys to lose more so your draft picks are higher, right? There are definitely teams in this league that tank and move a bunch of players. Why?
I don't really think, I'll push back because I don't think people tank. I really don't.
You really?
I don't. I think people make decisions based on their situations, but I don't think anyone in this league really tries to tank.
You don't think when teams move like 4 or 5 veteran players, they're not like doing that knowing that the results are going to be poor?
I think they may look at their situation and think that they are building for the future, but they're not tanking. They're not trying to lose. I think everybody goes out there and tries to win every single game. I think sometimes you have an ability to acquire assets that may help you more the next year than it does at the moment. But I don't think anyone ever tanks in this league.
Okay, so we can agree to disagree on that, but the bottom line is, why is it important to keep a winning culture, and when things are tough, that you can't afford to have things go really, really south? You don't, and you fight like hell to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, I think no matter what adversity you have, I think it's really important to keep the locker room tight. And I think that's very, very important. And to understand that this is not an easy league, and that the only way you get out of situations is to keep working and keep coming together. So I think that's important, and I think also to kind of maintain the expectations of what they are around here. I think that's really important. Again, the excuses of being young and all that, it's easy to fall back on those things, but I don't think we have any time for that.
Ryan, could you explain the value you see in that third-round pick now with your current situation? How that was, to you in your mind, more worth for what your needs and where you're going than keeping a veteran player. What you can do with that third-round pick?
Sure.
And do you think that there's a great class coming that can fill your needs when you get there next spring?
Yeah, there's a pretty good class coming up, but it's more about, that's a 4-year contract, 4-year rookie contract. It also frees up a significant amount of resources from the cap for next year as well. So I think it's everything that's involved in that, and then just kind of looking at our team right now and some of the young guys that need to play, and making sure we know what we know there as well. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. But again, we're trying to beat the Rams. That's the number one focus right now this week. But from my aspect of it, there's always a little bit of one eye on the future as well.